All right, welcome back to the mock quiz series for the CompTIA Security Plus 701 exam. This is going to be a follow-up to the previous video I uploaded where we took a look at 10 different questions from the CompTIA Security Plus exam and also how to answer them. So in today's video, it's going to be the exact same format. We're going to take a look at 10 different questions and I'm also going to answer them, and I'm going to show you exactly my thought process so that you can get a few tips on how to think and answer the questions during the exam itself. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. All right, so the very first question in here says that in a company network, the IT department wants to implement a solution that will divide the network based on security requirements. Now, what mitigation technique is the IT department planning to implement to enhance network security in this scenario? We have least privilege, patching, segmentation, encryption. So they're saying, all right, the IT department wants to divide the network, the keyword divide. When you look at the options given to us, the answer should be pretty obvious. It's going to be segmentation, because when you're segmenting something, you're basically dividing that thing. So least privilege, that really does nothing. Patching, how is that going to divide a network? You're not really dividing a network by patching. And then encryption, again, you're not dividing a network by encrypting the data. So the very obvious answer in here should be segmentation. All right, second question. An organization enforces mobile device encryption policies to ensure that data stored on employee smartphones and tablets will be protected from unauthorized access in the case of device loss or theft. What security measures is the organization primarily implementing by enforcing mobile device encryption policies? So the company wants to make sure that the data will be protected even if the device on which the data is stored in is stolen, right? So we have the four options in here: data integrity, confidentiality, data availability, and then data authentication. So what exactly is data integrity? Data integrity is making sure that the data has not been corrupted. So that isn't exactly preventing from unauthorized access. So it can be integrity. Confidentiality, maybe. Data availability, this just means that you're making sure that the data is made available to those who have access to it. So it's not the same exactly as protecting from unauthorized access, right? And then data authentication. Not really, because, okay, you're making sure the data is authentic. The very obvious answer in here should be data confidentiality, because when you're making data confidential, it's only people who are supposed to have access to that data. They'll be the ones that will have the access. So data confidentiality basically just means that you're protecting the data from unauthorized access. So data confidentiality is going to be the answer for this particular question. All right, next question. A security technician analyzes network traffic logs to identify patterns indicative of a potential denial of service attack. In the context of threat detection and analysis, what action is the security technician primarily taking when analyzing network traffic logs to identify patterns indicative of a potential DOS attack? So we do have intrusion prevention, we have threat hunting, risk assessment, as well as risk avoidance. Straight off the bat, we know that risk avoidance cannot be the answer because you're not really analyzing the traffic. You're not trying to identify patterns indicative of a potential DOS attack when you're avoiding risk. That doesn't make any sense. Risk assessment, again, not really. You're assessing risks. That's kind of different from you actually trying to identify if a denial of service attack is taking place. So it's either going to be intrusion prevention or threat hunting. But looking closer, intrusion prevention cannot be the answer, because intrusion prevention simply means that you are preventing an incident from occurring, right? Threat hunting, on the other hand, simply means that you are trying to identify if there is a potential threat, a potential attack taking place. So the answer to this particular question is going to be threat hunting. Question number 4. What type of reconnaissance activity is a potential attacker engaged in when collecting information about potential vulnerabilities on the organization's external network by reviewing job postings or message boards about the organization? So this is obviously the very first stage in your cyber kill chain. So we've got passive reconnaissance, active reconnaissance, defensive penetration testing, known environment testing. Cannot be a known environment testing, and it cannot be defensive penetration testing either, because we're not conducting any sort of penetration test, right? We're simply gathering data. So it is a form of reconnaissance. Now, is it passive or is it active? So in this case right now, it's going to be passive, because passive just involves you collecting information either online or offline. Active reconnaissance will involve processes like scanning for open ports and things like that. So active reconnaissance would be the potential attacker actually trying to scan for possible vulnerabilities or open ports on the network, as an example. But passive is just them collecting information from social media, from job postings, things like that. So the obvious answer in here is going to be passive reconnaissance. Okay, question number 5, and this is going to be a very tricky one. It says Bob is responding to a security incident that compromised his organization's website. He believes that the attackers defaced one or more pages on the website. What cybersecurity objective did this attack violate? Wow, okay. So we have availability, privacy, confidentiality, integrity. This is a tough one. It's pretty tricky. So let's start from the top. Availability. It's possible because a web page is meant to be available to users, right? Let's imagine that this website is public. The pages are public to the website, right? To the internet, right? So if the attackers were able to maybe remove the logos, or they removed certain kinds of information from that website, from that web page, then they're denying access to that information, right? So availability could be the correct answer. Wow, okay. What of privacy? Okay, that is if the web pages, the website isn't public. Maybe the web pages were meant to be accessed by only certain kinds of people, maybe the employees or certain kinds of clients, but it's not stated explicitly that the pages on the website were meant to be private. So privacy, I don't think is going to be the answer. In fact, it's not the answer. Confidentiality. Okay, so what is confidentiality? Making sure that data is accessed by only those who have the right permission to access it, right? Confidentiality, possibly, but again, it's a website, it's web pages. It's meant to be accessed by pretty much anyone, right? It's a public website. So I don't think confidentiality is going to be the answer right here. And then integrity. What is integrity? Integrity is making sure that data has not been compromised with. That is a potential answer, because the attackers, they were able to deface one or more pages. So they basically tampered with the integrity of the data. They tampered with the integrity of the code. So we have availability and integrity. What do you think is going to be the answer here? The answer right here is simply going to be integrity, because it is the more direct of the two answers. When you're saying availability, it didn't necessarily indicate what was defaced. All we know is that one or more pages were defaced. It's possible that the attacker simply maybe added a very random picture of somebody, or they maybe added like a video or something. Maybe they didn't necessarily tamper or erase any of the data that existed on the web page initially. So they're not really taking anything away from the web page. They're simply adding their own stuff. So availability, the data is still accessible. The content of the web pages is still accessible to the public. It's just that now they've added their own additional information, right? So integrity is going to be the answer, because it's the more direct. Integrity simply means that data has been tampered with. It's been compromised. It's been defaced, as we have in here. So integrity is going to be the right answer. I know that this is a bit tricky, but this is how to think when answering very tough questions like this in the exam. So once again, integrity is going to be the answer. All right, next question. To quickly address a security vulnerability found in the firmware of IoT devices, what is the most effective action? So conducting a risk analysis, patching, network restructuring, device upgradation. So notice the keyword quickly. We want to quickly address a security vulnerability. Conducting a risk analysis, I don't think that's the quickest thing to do. All right. Patching, possibly. Network restructuring, it is an effective way of addressing a security vulnerability, but yet again, It's not necessarily a very quick thing that you can do. Device upgradation. If you're upgrading a device, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're addressing a security vulnerability. Patching is going to be the answer in here, because patching is you basically addressing a security vulnerability by patching it up. So patching is going to be the answer in here. And besides, it's also going to be the quickest way to address such a security vulnerability. Next question, a security technician has noticed unusual behavior from an employee who has access to sensitive customer data. Wow. The employee's actions are suspicious, indicating potential malicious intent. What type of threat actor is the employee most likely categorized as? We have organized crime, nation state, hacktivist, insider threat. It's a pretty straightforward answer. Insider threat, right? It's not organized crime. All right, this is not some crime syndicate at work. It's not nation state. We're talking about an employee, so it's not nation state. A hacktivists are those who hack for a social cause. So insider threat is going to be the answer in here, because insider threats are basically employees, people working within the company who might be a potential threat. So insider threat is going to be the answer to this question. Question number 8. Which of the following teams combines both offensive and defensive testing of a company's network? We got red, white, blue, and purple. All right, so it's not going to be red because red is purely offensive. It's not going to be blue either because blue is purely defensive. But we're talking about a team that combines both red and blue. It's not going to be white because whites in this scenario typically are more like the judges, the referees conducting the exercise. So purple is going to be the answer, because if you think about it, when you combine red and blue, you're going to get purple. So purple teams basically combine both attacking and defensive capabilities when testing a company's network. So the answer in here is going to be purple. Question number 9. A security engineer has noticed that the data center server racks are accessible to all employees, posing a risk to critical infrastructure. What is the most appropriate physical control to mitigate this risk? Notice the keyword there, physical control. So it says implement a network intrusion detection system, install locks on the server rack doors, update the antivirus software, conduct a risk assessment. Okay, so notice again the keyword physical control. Risk assessments are not physical. These are more of like administrative control. So that can be the answer. Update the antivirus software. That's more of a technical control and not a physical control. So that cannot be the answer either. Install locks. Yes. Install locks. It's physical. It's possible. Let's hold that. Implement a network intrusion detection system. Okay. However, the NIDS can either be software or hardware. So it's kind of like we don't really know. However, locks are physical. They're always physical. So the best answer here is going to be option B, install locks on the server rack doors. And the final question, it says, a technician enables a full disk encryption on a laptop that will be taken on a business trip. Which of the following does this process best protect? All right, notice the keyword best. So it says data in transit, data in processing, data at rest, data tokenization. Right off the bat, data tokenization cannot be the answer because it's just using data tokenization is you simply replacing sensitive data with a token. So that cannot be the answer. So is it data at rest? Possibly. Data in processing? No, because we're not processing the data at the moment. It says that the technician enabled the full disk encryption on a laptop that will be taken on a business trip. So the data isn't being processed at the moment, so it cannot be data in processing. Data in transit. Okay, it's a little bit tricky because it says that the laptop will be taken on a business trip. However, data in transit isn't the data being transferred physically on a laptop. Data in transit simply means it's being transferred from one device to another or from one network to another. So don't fall for that trap, okay? The answer here is going to be data at rest because the data is still in the hard drive of that laptop and it's just sitting there. It's not actually doing anything. So the answer here is going to be data at rest. So that's it for today's quiz, where we've taken a look at 10 different questions and we've answered them. And I've also given you some ideas on how to think when attempting to answer the questions in the real exam itself. If you haven't checked out part 1, I will encourage you to do so. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give this a thumbs up, share the video with anyone who may feel might benefit from it. And of course, if you have any questions or comments about any of the questions that we tackled in this quiz, put them down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching the tutorial, or rather the quiz, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.